I am now delighted to announce that we have Mr. Juggy Marwaha with us, who is the CEO of Prestige Group, a dynamic leader with an illustrious and inspiring career who has traversed a very interesting path from hospitality to real estate and from Calcutta to making Bangalore home. In the real estate world, Juggy has held leadership roles in renowned organizations spanning RMZ, JLL, WeWork, where he drove massive growth for the organizations with landmark deals. He's, after all, a deal maker. Now, at the helm of Prestige Group, he's spearheading the commercial office business to newer heights and paving a spectacular growth trajectory, being actively involved in acquisition, design and development, planning, execution, business development, leasing, and sales of the group's portfolio. So, let's welcome Mr. Juggy Marwaha. So, first of all, Juggy, thanks for being here with us. I was looking forward to this conversation, and most importantly, asked the team to put together a list of questions. They have got 30 questions for you. So I'm not going to give you 30 questions. I'll try to do 10. So first and foremost, we are obviously excited to have the CEO of the most prestigious group, the Prestige Group in India. But when I got to know about it, I was even more doubly excited because our life choices are similar. And what I've read about you has deeply resonated with me because at a personal level, like you, I've also changed industries. I am a computer science engineer. I spent the last 2 decades working on environmental sustainability and buildings and engineering and other stuff. So your journey is pretty similar. So what I've learned along the way is that the urge to take risks and explore different facets of life can be deeply rewarding, like you have felt, or a penchant for roller coaster, like you say. Coming back stronger from adversities, like the one we just did recently, like COVID, and always keeping the curiosity alive by being a student of life forever. So why I'm giving you this background is because you are a testament of building success by collaboration and learning from mistakes, never making the same one twice, as advised to you by one of your early mentors. So, first things first, you've said your mantra is not to say you're not the best, but we must say with power that we are the best. So, no ego, embracing collective responsibility, and really that's the mantra for scaling to greater heights. So with that, how this has helped you, the Prestige Group, in cementing its status to be the leader of this country?
I think you make me sound like Superman. I'm not Superman. So I think it's just the journey, it has been very rewarding. And I think the journey is from, like you rightly said, from the hotel industry to real estate. Those days you never had too many choices, and, not so, never actually progressed in terms of formal education, and we were just lucky that we were in the right space in the right time. And I think I always said this, that, life is all about sangharsh. So we started like that, and in those days, hotel industry was, in my view, the closest to the military discipline of being on time, being always disciplined. It was the closest to the civil society in terms of, on one side, your defense and the others. So I think we chose that path, and I think the industry as such, in fact, I still remember there was a mass exodus of hoteliers when the technology, GCC's business stepped in India for the first time. I don't know how many of you remember that, there is one of the big brands, HSBC. So I remember when there was a mass exodus of people from the hotel industry to banking, and the form where people were leaving jobs for a better future in terms of leaving the hotels for something better. And they all started saying, hotel se banking chalo. So that was the full form of HSBC those days. So hotel se banking chalo, that's how people left the hotel industry. But on a serious note, I think the tailwinds that we got, in the last 3 decades in this country, and this room stands testimony to the fact that, take a small example of how our parents bought their first home only on retirement with the pensions that they received. Today, I think the moment somebody crosses the threshold of a 25-year age and they start looking at their own homes, even though the gig economy is very, very different. The people still don't, the youngsters don't want to buy their first home and they want to live in a shared economy and all of that. But I think the overall ecosystem in the last 3 decades, thanks to the way our reforms happened in the country, uh, that has actually transformed and given opportunities to people like us who are not so uh, mm, educationally qualified like the way you are, but I think education is experiential, and every industry teaches you experiences that help you take those challenges, learn from one industry, and take the learnings to the other industry, and that's how I think I've grown. So.
That's wonderful. I am always impressed when I hear leaders like yourself tell their origin story, right? What grounds them, what keeps them alive, and what makes them get up to work every day and make the change that they're making. So thank you for doing that so beautifully. I'm not jumping right into sustainability, so I'm trying to ease you in a little bit. The thing is that I know that you are an Apple fan, right? So the good news is you've got some Apple product launch coming, so hope you're not going to spend too much money on it. But when we turn to your company, what are some of the newest emerging technologies you are embracing and implementing at Prestige? And at the largest trend level, what is the real estate industry at large adopting to actually cut down on emissions? In terms of technology, it's a two-part question.
So I think first things first, at Prestige, I joined Prestige about 5 years ago. It's just been about 5 years, with a clear mission that we wanted to change the office business the way Prestige does. For the longest time, we've been very successful in doing. So to give perspective to the audience here, Prestige has built about 130 million square feet, 300 projects built and delivered, building another 180 million square feet, and planning stage another 90 million square feet. So that will take Prestige to almost a 400 million square footage company. Very few companies build that quantum of real estate. And from being a Bangalore player, going into a pan-India kind of a place, and I was talking to somebody, your colleague from Mumbai, and he did mention to me that, you've become a Mumbai player, and somebody met me in Delhi and they said, oh, you're becoming a Delhi player. It's not easy, but I think the trick is, the mantra is the execution capability, that we have, done this very well. So that's one part of the business. Coming to my focus in the last 5 years, how we see the built environment change. Quite clearly, I think 4 big pillars of our office business that I'm actually working very hard on is first, the most important is the human experience. Human experience in buildings today has transformed exponentially, and I think post-COVID, people realize the importance of having health, wellness in the forefront. So that experience of human experiential, when you walk into a building, how is the quality of the air that you breathe in? How is the sustainable factors that actually help productivity in buildings? So that is one aspect of the business that we are really focusing. The second part is basically the design. Actually, that drives everything else. So if you look at high performance buildings today that we talk about, the factor 4 and all of that, design sensibility is the basic ethos of any future building. So to give you an example, with all these smart people in this room, I think the way buildings are being designed, be it the whole effort to put sustainability in the forefront, is also very big leapfrogging change that you also have to make. Also keep in mind that somebody like us who lease about 20,000 square feet of space every day. We sell 40 homes every day. We sell 700 hotel room nights every night. And our shopping centers have about 25,000 people walk into shopping malls. These figures are staggering. And if you don't take the humanized experience along with them, the learnings of that, you're actually, setting up yourself for failure. So that's the human experience, which is extremely important. Together with that is the whole thing of hotelizing experience. In office today, in fact, this morning I was telling a colleague of mine that, you walk into any of the parks and a security officer will come and salute you. Times have changed from being giving you a salute, you're supposed to do a namaste, because those are the Indian sanskars that we grow up with. And I think that hospitality nature is really evolving, and nobody does it better than hotels, and how the hotelizing effect is happening to the office buildings. And that's a big game changer, because what's happening is post-COVID, an office occupier who walks into the building today doesn't want to see drab faces, doesn't want to see a security officer who's grumpy. They want to see a hospitality feel to it. The overall sense of belonging that occupiers have in a built environment only enhances multifold the moment you make the whole environment much more laced with the softer part of experiential occupancy. And that's what we are focusing on. Along with that, the big jump is technology adoption. So if you look at the design, development, humanizing of experience, and hotelizing service, and then you come to the part of the IoT of things, of how you manage buildings today, and even to the high-performance buildings, one of the key quotient of the high-performance building is actually how do you actually take data in from the buildings that give you so much of pointers to help you augment that building in such a manner that technology platforms help you to substantiate the effort much more simply. For the simple reason is that we have all those tools today, and if you don't use them, I think the loss is all ours. And I think that adoption of technology is actually a game changer in your industry also. So I'm just giving an example. If Net Zero comes to us and say that, give us a park which has 5 million square feet, I'm happy to do it. But if I don't get the data across to you in the right manner, if the building management system is not talking to each other, if the elevator system is not talking to the BMS, if the BMS is not talking to this access control, the access control not talking to the HVAC system, all of that is a big problem. So I think that along with this is the big focus. So just to summarize our focus, design sensibility, building for future to make it future-proof, resilient, and forever relevant. It's a very important thing. Second is hospitality and hotelization. Third is our overall experiential design of the buildings. And fourth, of course, technology and usage, and sustainability in the forefront. So that's what it is.
No, that is well said. What resonates with me is even when we talk about green buildings, always I've said, if you want to talk about a building, you need to talk about the people inside them. So you encompassed it very well, because the trend is changing, and if you don't put the people in the middle of the context, then it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, I think consciousness has improved, and especially post-COVID. To give you, just a pointer, in the office market, so India is almost 1 billion square feet office market. And if you take context to that, that number has actually substantially, the green part of that 1 billion square feet has substantially grown in the last 5 to 7 years. Today, green stock in the office market is about 450 to 500 million square feet, which is a damn good number. I still remember Selvaraj and all of us doing this, maybe I don't know how many, 20 years ago, when we started for the first time, and people said, oh, you're going to build a green building, how much rent are you going to get extra? So I think we've leapfrogged from that environment into a brand new, different environment where it's not about the productivity, or it's not about the dollars earned from this, but it's a consciousness that we are getting. I think that green footprint is, has leapfrogged to such an extent because also the occupiers are asking developers to build green stock. And then you have green leasing, and then you have green loans, and then you have the entire ecosystem is now going to, and with all this ESG governance, that compliance that companies have, boards ensuring that sustainability impact that you make to society is taking center stage today. So it's a consciousness that has evolved over the period of years.
Absolutely. Just shifting this now to the sustainability narrative, you're a big group. You've already done 130 million square feet on the ground. 70 more coming, and you'll be at some point 400 million square feet. That's a large building footprint. So obviously, with building sector contributing to 40% of global emissions and about 33% of energy demand coming from the building sector, not directly real estate, but related from the real estate. When you look at all of that, how have you set your strategy for net zero ESG? Because I don't want to ask a piecemeal question. You can share with us where you are, where you're going, and what is exciting in it.
Yeah, so I think the first important thing, aspect that you made, that the greenhouse gas emissions in our built environment, about 38% of that, a big chunk comes from energy and fossil fuels and all of that, which is burning our buildings in terms of running those buildings. But a large part of it is also building operation and maintenance, and what kind of equipment are you using to fire those buildings. I think over the period of time, and if you take a larger context to this whole thing, if you look at the greenhouse gas emissions of how countries have changed, I'll take a small example. 5 years ago, had you been to China, in cities like Shanghai, Beijing, or Zhongzhou, or Shenzhen, all of that area, it was a gas chamber. I was just there about a month back, and it's so heartening to see how countries like China, where the manufacturing quotient has gone up 100x, but the built environment has absorbed and has embraced sustainability to such an extent that these cities are now they have leapfrogged to the next level. Taking that same example, I think in our country also, I just keep saying this, that in the office market, which is governed by occupiers who drive those 10, 20 developers very easily towards sustainability and green buildings, is the easier part. To give you an example, if India has a billion square feet office market, every year a billion square feet is being added in the residential market. And that's the real thing, from B2B and B2C. I think a big focus should be also B2C, because that's where you're selling 500,000 homes every year. If you take 500,000 homes and take 1,500 square feet per home, you're talking about 750 million square feet of homes being added every year. How much of that is really being actually built, designed, conceptualized, operated as carbon neutral or sustainability? I think I see somebody nodding their head. I think it's nice to see that you can do one part of the industry which is still scratching the surface, but the larger piece of residential development is still not getting there. So our big focus is to ensure that how can we make our end users who buy those homes make it like a standard offering today, that if you don't build green, if you don't build net zero buildings, if you are not conscious about the water that is going into energy conservation in residential buildings, I think it's a matter of a big concern that bodies like CREDAI, in fact, the next event we should do with you is to get the larger body of CREDAI aware of this kind of thing, because they are also learning so fast. And these are platforms where you actually can, hit the nail on the head and say, come on, let's do residential development, which is completely game changing. And I think that's the big focus. So at Prestige also, while we are doing the office side and the commercial malls and building hotels like this, in fact, I still remember 10 years ago when this hotel was launched, it was one of the first, carbon neutral hotel and LEED Platinum and all of that. Not many hotels have taken that same leaf from this hotel to actually, and it's so nice that you are having this in this hotel. I was talking to Tapan in the morning and he said, this is exactly what you have to do. So I think consciousness has to increase, and with people who are the educated lot who sit and drive change. And I was so impressed to see people from all walks of industry absorbing, from that masala wala story and all of that. These are big leapfrogging initiatives that you're doing. So I think everybody needs to embrace sustainability, and that social consciousness to make a big impact to the society starts from leaders like you and me.
Thank you. And the statistic is only 0.02% of buildings are truly net zero today in the world. Now, there could be two issues with it. One, it could be a data issue, or if it is a reality, we are in serious trouble, right? And definitely we have an accounting issue across the board. But having said that, Prestige with a large portfolio as such, if you don't want to get on record with this, that's fine. But I like to still ask the question that do you really think the entire portfolio of Prestige will ultimately transform to be a net zero emissions building by 2050?
I, I think we have no choice. And I can assure you this, and Tapan has been chasing me for something, and I can assure you right now that before I leave here, I will shake hands on giving you a largest park in Bangalore to make it net
So
zero.
let's give that one a big round of applause.
And that's how it starts. It's 6 million square feet, 7 million square feet to be precise, Prestige Tech Park. Oldest tech park in the city. We spent about 100 crores to rejuvenate the park during COVID. From a 26% vacancy level, we brought it down to 3% vacancy level. And we will fail in our duty if we just limit it to only changing the AHUs to make it, all the new MERV filters that we're putting in. That's only one part of it. How do we make this large park where thousands of people work to make it carbon neutral and at least aim towards net zero? We may not get there, but over a period of time, these old buildings are more important to revisit rather than the new buildings that you can always rebuild and redesign and plan with all the smart consultants that you have in this room.
Yeah, we have Dr. Sunita here. She did the same thing with us about 6, 7 months ago, and we got their project, one of their project, well ahead of the way. And you made a
That's Mahindra Life Spaces.
yes, indeed. So the thing is that we introduced Dr. Sunita first, then Mahindra next. That's how we know her.
No, and I think it's important because the built environment has to change. So simple thing, COVID taught us that if you don't do MERV 14, MERV 15, nobody's going to come into your office.
Correct.
So if that is the benchmark that you already set for yourselves, how can we keep leapfrogging into other things which include usage of power and open source and green power and solar? And in fact, we were talking 2-3 days back and they said, we're building data centers. Data centers, in my view, are the biggest guzzlers of power today. We're building 100 megs power, data center. People say, oh, I did 100. When will we go to solar power to run data centers? I think that's the bigger thing. Nuclear power energy. These are the things that people want to, see and hear. But having said that, I think the government is doing what it takes to push an envelope. But it's, after all, a whole societal change that needs to come. And I think people realize that if you want to leave a legacy for your children, for the next generation, it's important that this group today makes those promises that we have to leave something of a meaningful existence for our future legacies.
Fantastic. What you touched on is a very important point there. It's about incremental and not trying to look for the bigger goals, but to execute the bigger goals in a smaller way, right? Because none of us can sit here and say we'll be net zero emissions across scope 1, 2, and 3 categories. That's almost an impossible task today. But unless you set a plan and intent and really try to make that commitment towards that progress, we will not arrive. That's an excellent point. And earlier when we were discussing in the morning, you touched on another interesting lever we all can pull. So I just would like you to talk about it a little bit. Sorry? An opportunity that you described. I'll get to that in a minute, which is that you mentioned that we can actually locally source materials. That's an easiest way to reduce carbon footprint. So tell me more about how do you see this inside Prestige, how Prestige is doing it, and how everybody else can do it.
Yeah, so, I'll just step back. About, I don't know how many of you know that the Oberoi in New Delhi is actually built on bamboos. Nobody even will think about it. And that building was conceptualized, built 50 years ago. And when they recently renovated that building, they had a challenge. Then they realized that how can you actually have sustainable buildings built on wood and bamboo and all that timber that they use. Those days, things were different. Today, bamboo is being utilized in many other new projects. So coming back to what your question is, I think sourcing of equipment, carbon embodied materials, how do we make a big change in terms of using green cement or anything that actually helps the overall, so simple thing, sourcing local materials. That itself is a big change today. Instead of having it airlifted and shipped all over the world and adding to infrastructure and other things, if you start sourcing local material, that itself is a big change. I think it's a matter of time that people realize that it's a combination of using the right materials, building sustainability during design, then operating it in the right manner, plugging in the right MEP infrastructure. So 10 years ago, nobody thought that you could build a building with combination between chill water, water-cooled chillers versus air-cooled chillers. Today, it's a norm that you use combination of both because you don't want dependency one against the other, and operating efficiency change. I don't remember how many of, I think Forum Mall built the first PVR cinema, which had a very unique air conditioning system that actually threw in fresh air from the ambient of Bangalore into the cinema theaters. Till about 6 in the evening, they did not even use chill water in the air conditioning. So if it's just a matter of making a commitment to yourself and taking these things. And everybody needs to make the small, jumps and steps that you really need to move forward with. I think
That's fantastic. So we'll do 2 quick questions very quickly. The first one is that you worked at JLL and WeWork, and now at Prestige. Culturally, very different organizations. What is exciting and what's new?
Okay, so I'll go to WeWork first. Very tough to work with Israelis, especially when they are young, brazen, have a lot of money, a lot of attitude. In fact, I had my tete-a-tete with Adam Newman, and I told him, I said, what is working in New York for you, what's working in London for you will not work in India. India is a very different market. He never, took me seriously. But I think over the last 4 years, WeWork has transformed completely in India. They're very successful here because of the basic thing that you have to tailor make your business to suit the business environment that you're in. So that was a big change for me, for a lot of people there. If you take my life in JLL, I think it was the best period for the simple reason I came from a company which was family owned, trying to be professionally managed, and then you push yourself into a multinational. I remember the first time I was tutored by my boss, Anuj Puri, who hired me in JLL. He said, it's very different from when you work in a proprietary company to a large multinational. The first change you need to make is from an I world, you're going into a we world. And I think that transformation in private companies is today happened already. So even in private companies today, family-owned businesses, nobody uses the I word as much as the we word. That itself is a big change. But I think at Prestige, I think the vision of somebody like our chairman today, who's 70 years old, never gets tired, does 15,000 steps every day, sends me a screenshot at night saying that, how many steps did you do? That itself is a big passion and motivation that you work with. So I think every organization has its, and what works for one doesn't work for the other. And as long as you're successful in doing that, I think it's a well thought of journey that I chose from working in a private proprietary owned company to a multinational to a startup and then back to a proprietorship company that is professionally managed and privately owned and publicly listed. So it's a combination. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. To close it out, you mentioned...
But you need different skills, huh?
Of course.
Yeah, you need different skills, and you need to know how to manage your boss.
A lot of patience.
That goes without saying, at every level.
And to close it out, you have always said that you are a risk taker. In fact, you thrive on risk taking. So with that, what is the biggest risk that is creating that is biggest risk to getting to zero? What is the biggest risk?
What is the biggest risk?
What is the biggest risk everybody's perceiving to get to zero, at least from your point of view?
I think mindset. Mindset is the biggest risk. And you'll go back to risk hai to ishq hai and all of that. And I think that keeps people going. And I think, like you said, when you left your previous organizations where every certificate I saw was signed by you, and then you start from zero again. And sorry, but the word zero is also multiplying. I like the two zeros that you put together in your logo, Mahesh. So I think that itself is a multiplying factor of zeros. So from, I'm so drawing a corollary to this.
Thank you for that. It's a great conversation with you. I'm just thrilled to see such a fantastic human being driving our real estate industry in this country. So thank you very much for your good heart, great leadership, and most importantly, compassion towards the rest of our fellow humans.
No, thank you. We're all making a meaningful contribution as long as you treat people well. And I think COVID taught us that this country will not let anybody die of hunger. Everybody put their views, everybody put in whatever resources they had to help each other. And I think people tend to forget. I think COVID taught us not to ever forget that first it's human, first the human connection, it's people, it's your country, always first. Thank you for that.
Please.
Thank you. Sorry. You made me emotional, right? You made me emotional. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.